Another day on the road. We just left Elyria, Ohio, and we're passing through Cleveland. That's where they store all the fuel, the cheap fuel. We just passed all the old factories, converted to warehousing, gutted, boarded up, huge chimneys, water tanks. Cleveland, Ohio. It's what made America great. And you know what? Uncle Donald says we're going to make America great again, but let's talk reality for a minute. We got to build new factories if we're going to be making things, and I guess if there's money in it, but money is different now. Money travels around the world much more quickly than it used to, and they make things in Vietnam and Morocco and Turkey because the governments have decided that instead of persecuting the people, they're going to put them to work. So instead of beating on their neighbors or launching rockets wherever they launch rockets, they're gonna get to work and work their fingers to the bone, and you need money, capital from the money markets to build these factories. Central Cadillac. And then you have to have workers that are skilled or unskilled to do the job, whether it's making iPhones. They're all made by hand, no machines. Once the chips are all made, they're assembled by hand. I heard a show on NPR. So you got to put these iPhones together by hand. You got to sew t-shirts, socks, jeans, dress shirts, slacks, dress clothes, make shoes. They used to make shoes in Maine and all kinds of upstate cities. All these old factories made things. So to bring manufacturing back, you have to have a factory, you have to have permits, you have to have wastewater mitigation. You have to have electricity, maybe it's solar, and you have to have money. There's got to be money because these big companies will pull out of town just like that. Look at Amsterdam, New York, and Mohawk carpets. They just went up the road. The factories are getting old and dilapidated, and they just pulled up their stakes and disappeared. So I don't think it's as simple as making America great again. I guess we got to face the reality. There's one of those caps right in the middle of the road. We got to face the reality that there's a new government in power, the House, the Senate, and it gets really complicated, but everybody wants the best for America. This is where we live, this is our country. Whether you're born here, or you immigrated here, or you're here without documentation, we all want the best for this country. And how do we do that? That is the question. Airport with a jet waiting to take off. My phone died this morning and I had to stop at a Verizon store to get a new SIM card. The guy says, wow, your battery is junk. I said, you don't have to tell me that. Rusted. So how do you make America great or greater or great again? How do you improve things?
Right.
You can't pollute the water, you can't pollute the landscape, you can't use asbestos, you can't dump lead and tailings and coal's going out of style for the moment because it leaves a big dirty footprint or air print. Right now we're pumping natural gas and oil from the ground and wherever they're pumping it from, and oil is just the way to go right now. It's cheap. Gas is $2 a gallon. Coal's just not in style. Things go up, things go down. There's no such thing as clean coal. It's a fallacy. It's just somebody made it up. I could rant on and on and on, and my buddy GPL doesn't like that when I rant on. He tells me to shut up and make some videos of cold cranking big old Chevrolets. America used to be known as the smokestack capital of the world. We had the most smokestacks, which meant we were finishing the most goods. Whether it was wool or hay to feed cattle and make lots of meat. I don't think people want to work the way we used to work. Long, long days, polluting the environment. Things have changed, and you have to grasp what's coming tomorrow, not what was yesterday. If we put trade barriers on, there goes some plastic bags into the roadway. put trade barriers on China or France or Morocco or Turkey or Venezuela or Brazil, they'll say, well, we're not going to buy your metro rail cars that you manufacture in upstate New York or Houston. We're not going to buy your Boeing airplanes. And we're not going to buy your technology. Maybe we'll steal your technology like the Russians do. It's a really complicated world. You badmouth somebody and he just takes away your privileges. Right now the American dollar is very strong, and that's not a good thing. It's good for Americans going shopping elsewhere, but when people want to buy our goods, a strong dollar is not good. You want your dollar to be weak so it promotes outside investment. People buying things in your country, people setting up factories. That's why Japanese manufacturers, the German manufacturers make their Volkswagens and BMWs and Hondas and Toyotas in America. They also don't make them in the Rust Belt cities because they prefer to make them in the South because they have Carrier air conditioning, which was invented for factories. Now Carrier is moving another factory to Mexico because of free trade. Free trade works well with Canada because most Canadians live right near the border, and our way of life in Canada and the States is very similar. Yeah, tires half flat, fenders flapping in the breeze. What does he care? So free trade doesn't work well with Mexico because most of the Mexican population lives hundreds and hundreds of miles from the border. And you've got the maquiladeros, the factory towns right on the border below Texas and Arizona. And it brings up all the population and abandons the towns down below that are hundreds of miles away, and the drug dealers get to work. It's complicated. I wish Mr. Trump well because he's the man in charge. We're going to be big boys now, and we got to accept the reality. The glass ceiling hasn't been broken. Hillary's going for a walk in the woods. She's unconsolable. Unconsolable. She's a screaming wreck. And Donald Trump's the man in charge. Complicated. I listen to the news, lots and lots and lots, but the reality is he's in charge. He's going to be sworn into office, was it January 20th? And Ms. Hip Chick and I are going to go on a whirlwind tour of Europe. Yep, we're going to buy a brand new Alfa Romeo V8 in Italy, and we're going to drive around the entire Europe. And we'll come back in 4 years and we'll see how things are cooking. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I got to pay some bills from this trip. Get to work. Go see the dentist. Spring my friend's dog from the pound. And race this Dodge with big chrome rumbly pipes 4x4. Yahoo! Love it. Must be a racket driving that thing. For every winner, there's a loser. Remember that. For every winner, there's a loser. See you in Europe. Hope my Alfa Romeo is ready on the factory assembly line. I'm going to have it factory delivered. Nice V8 diesel Alfa Romeo. Guess some chicks falling asleep. Thanks for watching.